me. I was born here in Chicago, had a single mom, and 5 other siblings. The kind of art that I do, which is about a lot of found objects and assembly things, came from either one or two things. I'm sure one. My brother making me toys out of tin foil. That was one. And two, as a kid, I would just make sculptures out of the rug, the carpet, whatever, and just make like little caves and things to put my army men at. We were by ourselves a lot, but it was 6 of us, so we kept each other company. But we didn't have a TV, right? And so we would like use our imaginations. Like we would have put on little talent shows for each other, and hide behind the screen and be a TV, behind the couch and be like, okay, turn on the TV, So first of all, I feel like visual art is anything and everything. But the kind of art I like doing, it maybe falls along that line of being folksy. Because that's what I am, a folksy person, from the soul. This here is my idea of a block with 3 houses on the block, rapidly changing. It was just a facet of the west side of Chicago and Central Park in Ogden that I remembered. Auto shops, abandoned houses, and I always loved seeing the abandoned houses, torn down, in the process of being torn down, all the various wallpaper you could see and stuff, so that kind of like stuck with me. The bird here is, wood, bark, just me walking down the street, all that. And it's also the way this bird is walking. This bird is proud. This bird got its wings, Sylvester like. I'm coming, boom. The dog was made, tiger, whatever you want to call that. I just fascinated by these handles that I would get from Mariano's, and I would just store them up, and one day it just kept rolling things up, and said I'm going to make something out of it. And I didn't know what I was going with this here at first, but I started with these legs here first. Because I had a foundation. I said, well, I'm going to build upon this here, and what would this look like? And it started taking the shape of some kind of, dog thing. But when I started painting, I said, okay, this is going to be a tiger lily. It's weird how sometimes things kind of like infiltrate your soul and your mind. I think this also came about in this bird too. In a weird way, I watch a lot of like nature programs.
Oh, yeah.
Nature programs. Yeah. And I think that kind of like infiltrates one's DNA, and you're like, wow, that's beautiful, because this is just beautiful. Seeing a bird in flight, or a tiger after its prey. The graduation is a long story. God, somewhat of a replica of me, I was anticipating doing that. I knew where I was. That was like 2011.
And then the middle piece looks almost like a scene from a movie.
Very, very goth-like. I wanted to have that Gotham City type look. A woman walking along, or whatever that provokes. Shoe Dog was just when I worked in the shoe store. The guys there, not being very creative, would just throw away all these shoe inserts, and I would just like stare at these shoe inserts, and I was like, man, this is something. I got to start requesting, taking things home, and they started off looking very floral like, and then as you somewhat evolve, I just started like I wanted something more organic. I wanted that light. I wanted to get out of that darkness. I wanted to be like, yeah, I could be happy like this. So I started making these big floral arrangements. There's still something about you having to come to it. I want to be there. I want to meet you halfway. So yeah, that's that. Working on this clown thing too. This is something. Ooh, how did I even go about that? I know. I think how it started was I had these. What was that? Something that we had bought our daughter from like Wisconsin. You know, some of those like colorful things. And I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna. They look like a clown's collar, and I just started like, I'm gonna start there, and then so because of that, I think that's how that clown came about. Because I said this looks like a clown's collar. And I just started that. But I wanted that clown though. I wanted that guy with the sad face. Him. But this is how it came out. The mouth is made of like a piece of basketball apart from basketball, and yeah, I wanted that, and I wanted that orangeness. But I wanted those Groucho Marx eyebrows. Art's nothing if you can't share it with anybody, You can't teach it. You don't want to share the magic. Then what's your legacy? Just you and your like-minded friends, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You gotta share the knowledge or it's nothing. Shoe dog. It's a shoe dog. Mm-hmm. The vibrant orange one. That piece there looks like a diver. It's called Stony Island Jesus. Stony Island is a street and a community.
That water that Jesus is walking on was made out of orange peels, is that correct?
That's true, yeah. Orange peels, man. Yeah, there was orange peels and paper handles for Mariano's and a doorbell and some plastic. Next to that is, they call it Liz Lips, but they also remind me of the one of the Chaka Khan's early albums. And those are pea pods. There's this woman named Liz who sings, and she had these big cartoonish lips. And they're whispering, they're busted lips, they're all kind of lips. They're big lips, which are associated with mostly black people, but they're beautiful lips. So it can represent various things, not just woman, but men also. Maybe there's men, women lips there. Some are whispering, some are not even. Some are just closed, some are be ready to kiss. So puckering, some are So there's various ways to interpret that. To the right of that, yeah. It's one of the early pieces here. So a dresser light box. In it, you might see babies falling from the house. The house is afire, and I think there was a dark time in my life trying to figure out something. Obviously, it had something to do with babies and houses. This is my left now. Is the adventures of Dick and Jane. Although I don't think Jane is there, I think she's still sister to Dick and Sally. As you know, were early children books, but it's basically about if you look in there closer, Dick and Jane are reading. They're reading this newspaper called it says Black Lives Matter. So it's trying to enlighten white America, and this is a representation of Rockwellian vibe that was happening then and still persists today. I think sometimes racism is so thick it was not only in children's books, the disappearance of black people, but also it was it could be various things. It could be like making absence of black people of color in the miniature world.
Oh.
You know what I mean? That's how big racism is. And then when you see those little miniatures, which I work with them a lot, sometimes you have to paint your own person of color because the people of color they have don't really look. You know, they're not as diverse as the white people are. And although and everything, it seems like it's based in the 50s and 40s. They make these little town people. Like so you wonder where that's coming from. But when I was in Berlin, they were different. They did have people of color, but they weren't doing so much like domestic outdoor work. They were enjoying leisure. So you saw a black woman in a bathing suit, a black woman jogging, which is in America, we didn't have that much diversity in their miniatures. The absence of people of color in this period. I mean, you're human. You feel everything. Especially when you allow yourself as a creative person to be that. To be that is to be curious about everything. But to give voice, it's not so much the obvious, but the subtle. You look at this box here with Dick and Sally, Dick and Jane, whoever. There's a sense of humor in there. There's a sense of nostalgia. But who's nostalgia? The house thing next door to it is a house that I used to see on the west side of Chicago on Madison Street. Now this was either like post, it had to be post riots. And those was a beautiful home. Now I always loved the old town like structure, the wood, how you could see underneath that piece of wood was this other piece of wood and the skeleton of a house, but there was a beauty in it.
Sure.
And I always I was riding Madison bus downtown, I would just be like, wow, put that in my subconscious. And so, and to be on an abandoned lot, an empty lot. So imagine on an empty lot, you almost saw farmland. You saw how Chicago must have looked like. But you also saw presently how through racial strife, through the breakdown of community and the onslaught of gentrification, how something can sit so idly on an empty lot or a damn near empty lot, yet urbanized in a sense, in a city, ghetto, the hood, yet you had this farm-like creature from another century standing up, but in skeleton form. So I tried to capture that. The bird is the word. If you see here, Tiffany, on the side here, from this point of view here, you see the bird standing very proudly also. It's standing erect. It's ready to look. It's looking at the sky. Its wings are back. It's contemplating its next move. That's what we all do, but I think that in the subconscious way, that's me. You gotta create you can't go with the flow of society. You can flow with that for a little bit, but you gotta create your own pace. Yet your own pace is dependent upon the world, society at large, other people. But you can kind of direct your destiny with this here. I am on a different time zone than the other. But I know the other dictates what I do consciously. This is what I do unconsciously to deal with that, to find consciousness. That's a lot of back and forth.
Is it?